I
Right.
have been, and over again, like, how do I beat this afternoon slump? How can I get my energy back when it's 2, 3 in the afternoon and I'm just feeling just a little bit lazy? In Hawaii, we call it the postprandial Polynesian paralysis, which often happens after lunch. And, it doesn't always have to be that way. In fact, there's this very interesting physiology that is literally part of our body, which even if we don't have lunch, we can get that post lunch dip. And it was actually described, gosh, about 20 years ago in the Clinical Sports Medicine Journal, April 2005. And it was so interesting to read on this because there's a physiologic mechanism that explains this dip in energy. And it's not necessarily related to your lunch, although it certainly could be. And we'll talk about that. But even folks that skip lunch can get this postprandial, I should say, this afternoon slump, this afternoon dip. And how they describe it is they say this dip has roots in human biology and it can be linked to the size of the 12-hour harmonic in our circadian rhythm. And it certainly is exacerbated, as I shared, with a high carbohydrate lunch, but it can occur even without that. So it's a natural phenomenon, if you will, but we can preempt it. We can come back at it. We can literally crush it with these tips and tricks that I'm gonna share with you today, because you don't have to succumb to this afternoon slump. You don't have to white knuckle it either. Like, it's not just a mind over matter thing. Like, it's literally physiology. So I'm going to share with you today how to get through, get over, prevent, crush the afternoon slump. And you're going to have 10 levers, 10 powerful levers that you can pull, that you can access, that you can use to crush this afternoon slump. So I'm going to get all those out today. I'm going to try to just bang, 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 just bullet point them out. And if you want to have just free access to a PDF that'll summarize this for you, just reach out to me, Dr. Thomas Hemingway, or you can even email me at team@thomashemingway.com. And you can reach out to me that way or over on my website or on my Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I'd be happy to share with you a free resource so you can summarize these tools that will crush the afternoon slump. So, evidence-backed strategy number one is one of my favorites. It's what I'm grabbing here right now on YouTube. It's hydration, hydration, because there is no simpler thing to up your energy than hydrating. And many of you know, I just 2 weeks ago was at Tony Robbins' UPW, Unleash the Power Within, and he was reaching for his hydration. He was acknowledging the 20,000 folks in the crowd and saying, hey guys, grab your water bottles, let's hydrate, let's keep moving. Your physiology is everything. We're jumping around, we're moving, we're shaking, we're all the things, but hydration is and was and will always be one of the key elements to increasing the energy. In fact, there's so much data out there, studies showing how just a small 5% dehydration can literally tax your body, both in your energy as well as your cognition. You get less sharp, you're not as quick to respond, you're not as energetic, you're not as alert, and literally hydrating it yourself can be that key. So what I do is with lunch, I always drink at least 12 to 16 ounces of water. Typically, I'll add a little hydration to that, maybe squeeze some lemon, add some Himalaya sea salt. I also use a hydration drink called Hydrate. Kind of a funny name. It's so simple and easy. It's called Hydrate. I also use one called LMNT. And so hydration is key both during the lunch time as well as in that afternoon when you're feeling the slump, 2, 3 o'clock. Make sure you chug another 12, 16 ounces of water, or just be sipping it all afternoon long, because there's no single more powerful tool than hydration. In fact, there's a study that was actually pretty interesting, which I was a little surprised at the significant effect. And this was shared in 2019 International Journal of Environmental Public Health. And this took college students and basically looked at their hydration and how improving hydration affected their responsiveness, both with actual movement type things as well as their cognition. And literally after 1 hour of hydrating themselves, their scores improved significantly, both energetically as well as cognitively. And this was measurable. And it was literally less than an hour to see this effect. It was astounding how big of an impact this had. And they state in the study that water, makes up over 75% of our brain mass and its association between hydration and cognitive performance is palpable. You can see it, you can show it. They showed it in the study. There's been so many others that have looked at this. And so don't underestimate the power of hydration. So with your lunch, try to drink 12 to 16 ounces of water. If you can sprinkle in some Himalayan sea salt or add some electrolytes, a little lemon juice as well. It's literally the cheapest nootropic, if you want to describe it that way, that you might not be using. So forget about buying these fancy, expensive, ultra, specific supplements that are for energy and focus and blah, blah, blah. Start with water. Start with the most powerful, simple, and basically free resource, which is water. Improve your hydration. So this is one that I access each and every day. I got my water bottle with me right now. I do as much as I can throughout the day, drink, sip water all day long. The second most powerful tip, trick, and tool that I love to incorporate is a brief 10-minute burst of exercise, which is a simple walk for me. Or if it's super cold outside or it's rainy and I can't get out, I put on a quick 2, 3 songs, about 10 minutes, do a little dance party. But I want to share with you the powerful effects of this, because what I was so shocked with is they literally studied a 10-minute walk postprandial within, just a few minutes after eating versus a 30-minute longer walk that was 30 minutes or later after a meal. And the 10-minute walk was not only as powerful as the 30-minute walk, but it was more powerful. And this was reported in Nature, like literally the most premier medical journal just recently, July 2nd, 2025. It's entitled Positive Impact of a 10-Minute Walk Immediately After Glucose Intake on Postprandial Glucose Levels. And they looked at this effect to literally get your movement in right after eating. And if you did it right away and you just walked for 10 minutes, it literally had a bigger effect than you could have with a whole 30 minutes of walking that was 30 minutes after your meal. So they say in conclusion, a brief 10-minute walk immediately after a meal appears to be an effective and feasible approach of managing hyperglycemia. So it decreased the glucose spike. In fact, I thought the results were astounding. If you want to actually hear the numbers, the average with this 10-minute walk in glucose levels was 127. For the control group who weren't doing the walk at all, they were up to 180. That's significantly higher, 50 milligrams per deciliter higher. And then even the ones that did the 30-minute walk, they were at around 170-ish. So the 10-minute walk crushed both the 30-minute walk as well as the not walking folks, and had an astounding effect on glycemic control, which I would say also will affect energy, because if you take a big spike in your glucose, usually what happens after that, your body pumps out a bunch of insulin, as long as you're not a type 1 diabetic, and it'll lower your glucose, which it's supposed to do, but it usually lowers it a little bit too much, because when you have that big spike, it's trying to keep it from getting too high, and so you often release a little bit too much, and then you have that little bit of hypoglycemic slump, and that's how you often can feel a little bit groggy, a little bit less energetic after a meal. So remember this, literally 10 minutes is more powerful than 30 if done right after eating. So right after you eat, within 2-3 minutes, if you can just get yourself up, go for a quick walk around your office building, go up and down the stairs in your office complex, whatever that is, you literally only need 10 minutes. It's not a lot of time. And I promise you, not only will it decrease the glucose spike, but it'll raise your energy levels palpably. You'll notice the difference. So crucial, so critical, also free, also simple. The third tool that I'm going to share with you is basically the makeup of your lunch, right? You don't want to do a high glycemic index type of lunch with a bunch of carbs, and especially the refined carbs, the stuff that I repeatedly share that we should all try to avoid, which is the highly processed sugar, the highly processed grains and flours, and of course seed oils. You want to avoid processed foods at all costs, but especially avoid high glycemic foods at lunchtime. You want to stack your meal with a protein first strategy that I always share about. Try to shoot for about 30 grams of protein at every meal. Eat the protein first. Add in, if you want to, some healthy carbs towards the end of the meal, like whole fruit, berries, that sort of thing. Make sure though you're getting your protein. You can have some healthy oils in there. My favorite at lunchtime, because I don't like to go heavy at lunch because I have to crush the afternoon. And if I eat too much, sometimes I'll get a little bit of that postprandial stupor, if you will, the Polynesian paralysis. And so I stack my meal with protein. Maybe I'll have a salad with salmon on there, a little bit of olive oil, citrus type of dressing on there, just some lemon juice, simple olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, some lemon juice, throw in some nuts. I love to add some nuts to my salad because also protein and also healthy fats, and not much in the neighborhood of carbs at lunch. I usually try to not really do much carbs at lunch. If I do, it might be a handful of berries at the end of the meal. And this has been repeatedly shown and proven that if you have a lower glycemic index meal, you will have improvements not only in your energy levels, but your mood as well. There was a study done in 2016 in the journal Appetite, August 6th, in fact, and they studied this. They looked at 82 individuals, so not a huge study, but they looked at the glycemic index of their meals, and what they found is that those that had a lower glycemic index diet was associated with lower symptoms of depression, lower mood disturbance, and lower fatigue compared to those with a higher glycemic index diet. So simple, simple stuff. It's not rocket science here, but it is powerful. So make sure to start with protein in your meal. It'll also help with satiety. You'll eat less at the end of the day. And if you're going to have some carbs, do a handful of berries or some healthy real fruit or real vegetable carb and not highly processed stuff. The next trick, lever 4, we're already almost halfway there, is light. Light is phenomenally powerful. And this is something I learned in medical school where I was studying for hours and hours. If I was feeling a little bit low and I needed to get my energy up, whether it was afternoon or evening, if it was light outside, I'd go outside for a quick burst, 2-3 minute walk around the apartment complex where we lived. Or if it was night, I would just turn on the lights. My wife was like just tripping on this. I literally would have 2 or 3 lights over this table that I made for studying. And I would have the overhead light, and then I would have a couple of desk lamps, like I was flooding myself with bright light. And that bright light, amazingly simply and nearly free, it increased my level of alertness. And there's lots of studies to back this. This is very simple, very powerful. In fact, there was a journal article in the Frontiers of Physiology, December of 2021, which was entitled The Temporal Dynamics of Subjective and Objective Alertness During Exposure to Bright Light in the Afternoon. And it was very simple. They either made people go walk outside, get exposed to the outdoor light, or if that wasn't feasible, plausible, they flooded them with an increased indoor light. With interesting enough, it's actually hard to get as powerful of light, they measured in lumens, if you will, as is available outside in an indoor setting, but they attempted it. And when they increased the light exposure, it literally raised levels of alertness, both subjectively, how people thought, felt, and and felt, but also objectively when they would have them do cognitive assessments and things like that. So increasing your level of light exposure in the afternoon to curtail, get rid of this slump, if you will, an amazing strategy, amazing strategy, and largely free. So a little bit of light on your eyes and the so-called retina right back of the eye is like literally flipping your brain's day mode back on, the switch that says, hey, we got to be alert. It's daytime. Let's get after it. Boom, shakalaka. So simple, so powerful. Get out to some outdoor light, get exposed to some light in the afternoon. That'll help curtail the slump. If you can make it a little bit of a movement snack as well. I try to encourage people to do 2 to 3 minute movement snacks every hour. We'll get into that in just a moment. And that's literally been proven to raise the level of energy. And it's also simple and free. Brendan Burchard, if you've ever been to one of his events, he's very good at this. And he literally sets his timer for, I think it's like 49 minutes is the exact frequency that you should be doing this throughout the day. Every 49 minutes, you set your watch, boom, it fires, and okay, I got to do some movement. Like if you're standing and working like I am right now, which is hugely helpful with your alertness, just do some air squats like I'm doing here on YouTube. You can see me doing my air squats. You can do also some arm circles, some rotation there. You can pick up a weight that you might have on the floor. Like I have here, literally just throw some weights up in the air a couple of minutes every hour or so. Or, you can drop down and do push-ups or a plank or whatever that looks like for you. Try to do a couple of minutes of movement every hour, what I call a movement snack. Don't reach for the food, but reach for some movement snacks, and you will be astounded at how quick your energy goes up. I just pumped a 35-pound weight over my head a couple of times, and I can already feel the rush of blood to my body. It's amazing. So the little micro breaks every hour for 2, 3 minutes of movement is just powerful. Just powerful. Next tip, I think we're on lever 6 already, is safely and smartly including caffeine in your regimen if you are not super sensitive to it. So typically, folks are drinking their coffee in the morning, which is just fine if that's your habit. I wouldn't necessarily encourage coffee drinking in the afternoon or evening, because really you should try to abstain or stay away from any significant caffeine within 6 hours of bedtime, and that's been proven. And if you do want to reach for it, I would say at least make sure you separate it by 6 hours from the time that you hit the cot, so to speak. And there's lots of data on this. There's the Clinical Journal of Sleep Medicine 2013 that looked at this specifically at 0, 3, and 6 hours before bedtime. And of course, the 6 hour timeline didn't seem to have significant sleep disturbance, whereas the dose right at bedtime and 3 hours did. No big surprise there, but there's lots of data on this. And so try to avoid caffeine within 6 hours of bedtime. If you do need a little bit of a pick me up, try to do so maybe with your lunch or before 2 p.m. if you're going to sleep, after 8 or so. I usually say, just a general rule, try to avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. If you want to try a lower dose during a lunch, there's actually some new data looking at both caffeine and L-theanine together. Super helpful with cognition, mental clarity, acuity, and focus. And it doesn't have quite, the responsive effect of getting you a little bit jittery and whatnot. It's actually more of a mellow sharpening of your acuity, and it doesn't really get you feeling jittery or whatnot as when you add L-theanine to caffeine. Typically, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple hundred milligrams of L-theanine, maybe 100 milligrams or less of caffeine. You combine those together. There's a couple of studies on that. You can message me if you want me to send those over. But there's actually a drink that I sometimes will reach for in the lunchtime period. I try not to drink it late in the day, but I'll maybe do a half a packet of this. It's called Active, and it has both of these ingredients, not surprisingly, L-theanine and caffeine, which is coming from natural sources like yerba mate, for example, green tea extract. And these are sort of safe, healthy sources of caffeine. Don't overdo it. And I would say definitely try to keep it at least 6 hours before bedtime. So my typical cutoff would be 2 p.m. And I might even just do a small dose. Today, I took a couple of green tea extract supplements with my lunch just to see if that would, add to my clarity, focus, and energy levels. So far, it's doing great. We're pushing 6 p.m. here, and I didn't really have any afternoon slump. I worked all afternoon, and I'm sharing with you on this podcast right now, full of energy, full of aliveness, vitality. And that little bit of green tea extract, I think, helped me today. So another lever that I'm gonna share with you is, if you need a snack, this is lever number 7. I would call it the energy insurance snack. So if, like, halfway through the afternoon you're feeling a little bit hungry, first reach for water, because oftentimes our brain, the signals get mixed up in what's called the hypothalamus, and we think that we're hungry and we're really just thirsty. So take a big drink of water, hydrate, and if that doesn't do the trick, reach for a healthy snack, protein-based, largely handful of nuts. Maybe my go-to is Greek yogurt, sort of the no sugar Greek yogurt, if you will. I throw some blueberries on it, throw some nuts, maybe mac nuts, pistachios, whatever I happen to have handy, walnuts. And that not only causes satiety and gets me a little boost, 20, 30 milligrams of protein, but also gets me that little energy that I need and doesn't make me tired, because I literally don't have any appreciable significant carbohydrates, very low glycemic. I have a couple of berries, which is real fruit, has fiber with it, so it doesn't make me tired afterwards. So if you do need a quick little snack, make sure to grab a protein heavy snack like a Greek yogurt, handful of nuts, berries, or you could do, if you're not wanting to do yogurt or anything animal based, you could also do like hummus and veggies of your choice, celery, whatever the veggie of choice is for you, or maybe even like a peanut butter or something like that. Almond butter, peanut butter, what have you, has some healthy fats. and some protein. Boom, shakalaka. All right, here's one that I don't access very often. This is lever number 9. You might just need a power nap. And the time that I access this is often maybe once a month. I'll have to work a night shift. I try not to work too many of them because, I'm 50 plus, 52nd year of life here, and they're just not as easy as they used to be when I was in my 30s and 40s. And so I try not to work too many night shifts. But if I do need a little bit of a nap, I try to cut it to about limit it to 20 minutes. And so I set a timer. I actually have these like $10 Amazon eye covers that I put on. And I know it sounds goofy, but I put on these eye covers. I put headphones on. I might listen to some meditative music or something. I set my watch for 20 minutes because you don't want to go into too deep of a sleep because then you'll wake up feeling groggy. So limit that to about 20 minutes, and that has been shown to help boost your energy, your alertness if you need to actually do a power nap. Most of our jobs don't specifically allow for that. If I'm working from home, I could certainly do that, reach for that. I do once in a while if I'm in the middle of a big project and I just need to zone out. I'll set my timer 20 minutes, just quick shut eye, maybe meditate, listen to music, whatever. I don't always go to sleep, but just allow that sort of rest and digest nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system to kind of flood me for those 20 minutes. And then boom, I'm ready to rock and roll after that. So if you do need to access a nap, try to keep it to 20 minutes or less, because if you do a longer nap, it not only will often make you feel more groggy when you wake up because you'll get into a deeper sleep. And then when you're boom aroused out of that, you're like, you're like in a trance-like dreamy state. And that's not what you want. You're trying to increase your energy, not lower it. So a quick burst, quick short nap, most effective. And there's research behind that. Lever number 9. All right. Here's another one that I access very often, which is a quick burst of either strength training or some kind of movement, something to get your body, the heart pumping, the muscles squeezing, the blood flowing, if you will. I I access, right behind me, I have a door frame and I just throw a pull-up bar over there and I access 10 to 20 pull-ups. If I'm feeling really juicy, I'll do 30. And that burst of strength with the blood flow, it's like boom, powerful. So you can do that with some air squats. You can do that with a brisk walk if you can get yourself into a zone 2 for 10, 20 minutes, or lift some heavy weights. Or I just like doing a squat. I'll hold on to I have a 75 pound what do you call it, the thing, dumbbell, just the one that you put in one hand, and I'll literally hold on to that and I'll do 10, 20, 30 squats, and that gets the juices going. Your legs and butt are the biggest muscles in your body, and if you can access those more often than not, boom, you will notice that difference. So a quick burst of 10 minutes of activity. If you can do some weights, body weight, like I was sharing, what I love to do is do some pull-ups or some squats. Or what I did just before this podcast, I was like having a tiny bit of a slump, it was around whatever it was, 5 p.m. And, I was just like, kind of that mid-afternoon. And I just busted out 50 push-ups. And then my energy levels went through the roof. So an energy snack, a quick movement snack, whenever you need to, especially if you can access the larger muscles like the legs and butt with squats, for example, with a weight. Game changing, game changing. All right, the final lever is kind of counterintuitive, but it's what you do for today's energy happened yesterday, right? And it's kind of obvious. It's with your sleep. What happened during the night before? Like, how did you protect your sleep? Yeah, it's so powerful, so simple. But getting whatever that sweet spot is for you, 7 to 9 hours of restful, rejuvenative sleep. And what I do, not every night, but I'll sometimes, I used my Apple Watch last night, and I knew my sleep was going to be a little bit shorter than normal because it was a travel day for some family members, had to get them up early, get them off to the airport and so on. So I had a little bit of a shorter sleep, but I wanted to hone in on trying to get into a deeper REM state and also getting some restful sleep. So I listened to some meditation before sleep, and I only logged in about 6 hours, but I still got an hour of deep sleep and 30 minutes of REM, which was not bad for 6 hours. So I do monitor my sleep every now and again, not every single night, because, I don't like to wear a watch every night, but it's good to have some tracking system to kind of put a number with how you feel. And I felt really rejuvenated and just awake, alert when I got up, even though it was only a 6 hour sleep. because I did some preparation beforehand, had some meditation. I was in a cool room. I had my dark eye covers on. My wife makes fun of me because, like, even at night, like, I'm kind of she calls me a light princess. I'm trying to block out all the light at night. I use my eye cover mask, and it is astoundingly simple, but very powerful and effective. So remember that your energy level today started yesterday with your sleep, and critically this morning. What you do when you first wake up in the morning, if you can get out in that morning light, this has been one of the most powerful sleep hacks that has helped me not only have a great night's sleep, but with my energy levels throughout the day, is get out in the morning, sometime within the first 2 hours of daylight, do that 10-minute movement snack. Maybe it's you have breakfast and then boom, you walk for 10 minutes, like I shared with the lunch, 10-minute walk afterwards. So powerful with respect to blood sugar, but also with energy. And with this specifically, it helps with the signals that give you the cues that you need for your circadian rhythm. And you will be bright eyed, bushy tailed, and alert after that 10-minute outdoor light and movement snack. So maybe you weren't when you first woke up. I'm not always. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm a little bit tired, a little bit groggy. But when I get outside and I get my little light and movement snack in, breath work too, movement, walk, all can be accomplished easily in 10 minutes. Just phenomenal increase in my energy. So I'm going to share with you a couple of cases, folks that I've worked with personally. One we'll call Mark, and he was struggling because he was having big spikes in his glucose after lunch. He was kind of a borderline type 2 diabetic, and we were watching his blood sugars. And when he gave me his journal and showed what he was eating, I was like, dude, you can't be doing this kind of a lunch. And he was like going out and getting a sandwich and sometimes the fries with that or chips or whatever was offered. And I'm like, dude, no, let's change it up. Like, we'll find something that you really like. And he's like, actually, I like fish. And so we got a salmon salad kind of going on with some olive oil dressing. And he was changing the makeup of the lunch, like we talked about, a lower glycemic lunch as opposed to what he was eating, which was a higher glycemic lunch. We totally rebuilt it. Grilled salmon, had some olive oil, boom. We also adjusted. We had him not drink coffee after 10 a.m. and also added a protein and fibrous healthy snack in the afternoon, which was my favorite, which was the Greek yogurt and berries. And he likes a little bit of grain-free granola on top. And literally, that crushed his afternoon energy. He also actually dropped some weight because we changed his meal type. We got lower glycemic index foods. He was not snacking except for one small snack in the afternoon, which was the Greek yogurt and berries. And he didn't have to reach for, he used to reach for these candy bars. Snickers was his favorite. He would reach for that, or he'd just reach for like a bag of these I forget what they're called, popcorners or something, which aren't the worst snack out there, but it wasn't really great. It's highly processed white stuff, right? Grains, flours, carbs, sugars, not amazing. And so he dropped that, changed it for a healthier snack, did his post meal 10 minutes. He started with just lunchtime, and this was game changing. Game changing. Literally within 2 weeks, his energy levels completely changed. He was energized throughout the day. He was like texting me, going, dude, this has been a game changer for me. I can't believe how effective this silly 10-minute walk was. He was fighting it at first because he didn't believe me. I showed him this study, and he's like, oh, crap. Yeah, I'll try it, man. I'm like a research guy, like whatever. I'm smart. I'm not going to deny the data. And so, game changer, really just literally crushed that slump with the low glycemic meal, the 10-minute walk, and then the high protein snack later in the day. Boom, shakalaka, and crushed it. Another couple I was working with, they were founders of a company, and they were just working super hard. They weren't really getting getting their they were so busy that they were eating their meals like 8 9 p.m. at night, their dinners. And I was like, I get it, like I've been there. Just let's try to shift that by 1 or 2 hours. Try to eat your last meal before 6 or at the latest 7. And then if you're up for 3 hours till about 10, you have at least a 3 hour window where you're not eating. I promise you'll sleep better, because they were getting some sleep, but it just wasn't as restful and rejuvenative. And so what they did, they shifted their evening meal about 2 hours. Well, we started with one and then gradually made it to 2 hours, back from like 8 or 9 p.m. to about 6 p.m. So they had at least a 3 hour window after they eat, before they hit the sack, before they went to bed. And they also they did this afternoon light snack that we talked about. They got outside in the middle of the afternoon because they were start to have that energy slump, that grogginess in the afternoon. And so I convinced them to get outdoors, and they were in a place where they could do that. And they got outside for about 10, 15 minutes, middle of the afternoon. I think for them was around 3 p.m. It was a game changer. I mean, it literally, oh, night and day. Their sleep got better because not only were they having a 3 hour fast, if you will, before they laid their eyes or laid their head to the pillow, big difference because we often get tired after we eat with that postprandial glucose dip, that slump, but we don't sleep well because our bodies are working hard to digest the food. It's very metabolically active time, and so we're restless if we eat late like that. So they shifted their dinner a little earlier. They did this afternoon light and movement snack, and literally it was a game changer for them. And not only they have more energy, but their sleep at night improved. Like they were waking up more rested and just more alert, awake, and they were just thanking me left and right. And such a simple change that they made. And the third case I'm going to share with you, this was a guy that was in grad school. He was a parent of they had two little toddlers. And it was like they weren't getting great sleep at night. They didn't have time for getting off to the gym. So busy. He was like working plus doing grad school. And we basically got him doing these 2 to 3 minute movement snacks every 1 to 2 hours, where he would just from his desk, he would do air squats. Got him doing this. I got him to buy a couple of 25-pound weights, and he put them at the base of his desk, and he was doing little weights, and he would just alternate. He would do some legs 1 hour, some arms the other hour, just 2 to 3 minutes. And it was such a huge impact difference. And it was just noticeable, palpable. He was like, dude, I am never going back. I'm like, I'm so much more alert. My studying is so much more effective. I'm getting so much more done. And it literally cost me no extra time. Like he was shocked. He couldn't even believe it. So these little movement snacks that I'm sharing every 49 minutes, as Brendan Bouchard says, I just set my watch for every hour, do 2 to 3 minutes of movements, and it is literally a game changer. So as we close, we gave you 10 ideas. I want you to pick one or two, maybe just one for this week. Pick one thing that we talked about. Do that this week. See if it changes the game for you, if it helps you with your energy. Maybe pick a different one next week. Slowly add in 2 or 3 of these very simple but very powerful tactics to increase your energy so you don't get that afternoon slump. And then message me. Let me know what was working, what was the most effective, palpable, game changing, noticeable for you, because I want to hear it. Reach out to me, Dr. Thomas Hemingway on Instagram, thomashemingway.com, Thomas Hemingway MD at Facebook. Please send me a note, a message, an email, whatever. I want to know what you're learning, what you're loving, what's helping you, what's getting you that afternoon energy as opposed to feeling groggy and slow, having that slump that I even get sometimes. Like I'm not immune to it. I'm human just like the rest of us. And so if I'm not paying attention to these simple things like hydration, the movement snacks, the little 10-minute walk after eating, like do it right away. Do the dishes later. And this is what we started doing in our family. We'll literally just bust out the 2, 3 songs, do our dance party, then we'll do the dishes after. My wife and I will go for a quick walk around the block. We got this little perimeter that's exactly 10 minutes. We'll do one lap of that. And it is game changing. Not only improves your clarity, your focus, your energy, but I would say just your overall pleasure, like your just zest for life. Like, you know me, I'm all about not only increasing the years to your life, like I want to surf to 100, but increasing the quality of your life and adding what I would say life to each and every year, to each and every moment, to each and every minute. And these 10 tools will do that for you. So let me know what you're loving. Let me know what you're trying, what you're learning. I would love to hear about it. Make sure to reach out to me. Dr. Thomas Hemingway, Instagram, Thomas Hemingway MD on Facebook, thomashemingway.com. I'd love to hear it. Make sure if this has helped you in any way that you share it. Don't keep this to yourself. Share it out with your friends, your families, your significant other, your mother, your brother, your sister, your friends, your work colleagues. Like this is game changing. And I hope that you'll share it out. Until next time, a big aloha.